Liberty in our lifetimes in a free state of our own. That's the vision. That's the dream. And we are building it in New Hampshire. I'm Eric Brakey, your host and renegade statesman for the Porcupine Report. Welcome to your source for porcupine news and free-range conversation on matters of liberty. All right, let's hop into the show. Hello and welcome everyone to episode 13 of the Porcupine Report. You porcupines, you. I am, as always, your host, your renegade statesman, Eric Brakey, executive director of the Free State Project, and excited to be with you this evening. Excited for the conversation we're going to have ahead with our guest. First, just let's, like every episode, friend, I want to tell you about our great upcoming event. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. The early bird tickets are selling out, and that is for the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Pork Fest, June 17th through the 23rd at Rogers Campground in beautiful Lancaster, New Hampshire. You want to get your tickets. It's going to be a great event. This is a family-friendly freedom festival. We are going to have so many great speakers, including the one, the only, Dr. Ron Paul will be speaking to us personally. Now, he doesn't travel like he used to, so he's going to be zooming in over the magic of technology. We got a big, giant, massive screen. He's going to be speaking to us, and it's going to be live, and we're going to have the opportunity to ask him questions. So that's going to be great. He's going to be zooming in electronically, and so many others are going to be zooming in physically, by plane, by train. Well, train, I don't know. Maybe by train, but by plane, by car, however you're getting to Lancaster, New Hampshire, Rogers Campground for the Porcupine Freedom Festival. We're going to have 2,000 of your favorite libertarians. Folks, you get to go camping with, including Spike Cohen, Gene Epstein, Jeffrey Tucker, James Bovard, David Friedman, and so many more. Jack Hunter, my good friend Jack Hunter, who we had on the show recently. It's going to be his first Porcupine Freedom Festival. Will it be yours? Come on and join us. This is not to be missed. Bring your friends, bring your family, and reserve your campsite while supplies last. They're running low. Campsites and RV sites. So grab your tickets at porkfest.com before they sell out. And I will say a little bit of personal news, everyone, before we get into our conversation this evening. I am finished. The Maine legislature, the legislative session has finished. I am free. I don't have to go up to the state house every single day after day after day and fight against Democrat control of our state. That just keeps stealing more of our paychecks, eroding more of our freedoms. I'll tell you, it's been a very, very depressing few years in Maine if you're someone who loves liberty. But you know what state has not been depressing lately? New Hampshire. I'm so excited. I'm getting to now jump in even more with both feet into this role of executive director of the Free State Project. I still have some responsibilities I have to finish up in the off session while my term continues through the end of the year until the elections. But you're going to see me a lot more on the ground in New Hampshire, working in my role as executive director. I'm so looking forward to that. And I will say, in my first few months in the role, I really appreciated the warm welcome so many people gave me, wanting to get involved, wanting to share their knowledge about New Hampshire and the liberty movement there, and just say welcome. Well, welcome to being a part of this great Free State movement. And one of those people who was so welcoming was our guest this evening. I'm looking forward to having him on. Now, I'll say about our guest, he is with an organization that is a diamond level sponsor for the Porcupine Freedom Festival. We're so grateful to them sponsoring Pork Fest this year, and that is Alpine Gold. And our friend Adam Van is with us today. There you are, Adam. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on, Eric. It's fantastic, and the honor's all of ours. We're very happy to support the Free State Project and all of the liberty movements, all of the liberty and freedom that you guys are always expressing. I'm also a mover here in New Hampshire, so it's really fantastic to be a diamond sponsor and be supporting PorcFest.
Well, we're really glad to have you, Adam. We're really glad to have Alpine Gold. And I will say I really appreciated in my like first month in New Hampshire. You know, you gave me a tour of the Alpine Gold facility there in Manchester. And we even went out and had some sushi and some great conversation. And it was really a pleasure kind of getting to know you. And glad we get to have another conversation, but this time for all the world to listen in on and be with us. But I guess before we get into all of Alpine Gold and what you all are doing, because I will say for folks who don't know, you guys have some really innovative products with the Goldback, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. But like, how did you get into all of this? What's your personal story? You said you moved to New Hampshire as part of the Free State movement. Like, what was your kind of journey to liberty and to New Hampshire?
Sure. Thank you for asking. So, back in about 2012, I was listening to a radio show that was being broadcast out of Keene at the time, the Free Talk Live show, and it was on Saturdays, is what it was. And so it was fun to listen to because Ian and Mark were always going at each other in that show. And so it was fun to listen to on Saturdays. And they got to talking about Bitcoin on that particular show. And I got to looking at the original Bitcoin client and we use coins and stuff like that. So kind of an old school Bitcoiner, and it just kind of developed from there, because once I learned about Bitcoin and what the possibilities of that were, and then I'm listening to this show and they're talking about New Hampshire, then of course, they inevitably mention the Free State Project, and then you go learn about that. And so it was just an escalating process. So that year I just kind of learned and read about the Free State Project. And then in 2013, we had Liberty Forum that was being held in Nashua at the time. I think it was the Crown Resort at the time. Now it's called the DoubleTree. And so I just took a vacation in February and drove up from South Carolina, where I was living at the time. I'm from Tennessee, but at that time I was in South Carolina, and I drove up and experienced Liberty Forum. So and it was incredible to come to a place where there were 300 activists, 300 liberty-loving libertarians that were getting involved for liberty and fighting for it at every angle, and not just having meetings, but getting elected, passing legislation, removing legislation in some cases. It was just phenomenal. Being in South Carolina, our entire Libertarian Party was of 7 people, and you only got to see them once a year at the state convention, and there was only 7 people. It was, one year we met at a Friendlies, and that's just discouraging. And then you show up to New Hampshire, and there's 300 people at an event, and at that time I think there were 5,000 people living here, and so it was just a totally different take on the whole libertarian movement.
All right, 2 questions for you. First
Sure.
of all, at that Friendlies, were the other patrons like confused when people kept calling point of order over everything? Like what was
They were also a different type of libertarian there too. The ones up here are much more opinionated and talkative and calling a point of order. They're much more organized here as well. No,
every Libertarian Party convention I've ever been to involves a lot of shouting a point of order.
Well, there were only 7 of us, and we all kind of got along. And
all right,
our stories were pretty much, what did you guys get accomplished? Nothing. What are you going to get accomplished next year? We got a couple things we're working on, but nobody wants to hear us talk about it. And it's better now. It's better now. There's they've got quite a following in South Carolina now. I think they have a few hundred.
Awesome. Well,
a few hundred going on. So I like seeing I like seeing liberty across the nation, and I like that New Hampshire is the beacon of that liberty.
Yeah.
And we're developing stronger and faster and than anyone else, so this is where we live free or die. And this is where liberty is the beacon of freedom.
Well, I agree 100%. But you know what? One concern I always hear from people, particularly those kind of coming from southern states like you did from South Carolina and Tennessee, is People are like, well, what about winter? What about all this snow? We don't have to deal with this down in our tyrannical states. How have you been adjusting to the New Hampshire winters?
Well, it's not so bad. There's a lot of infrastructure here just to deal with it. So number one, the snow is well managed. So you still have, clean roads, and everybody goes to work and everybody goes to school, and it's not that challenging to get around because it's all very well managed.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I just I just continue on. So I manage one of the outdoor clubs here in New Hampshire, and we do snow camping and we go snowshoeing. I haven't been snow skiing yet, but we have quite a few enthusiastic porcupines that like to go skiing, and we just enjoy the winter. It's not much of an adjustment, really. It's just you get with people that know how to manage the snow and they know how to play in the snow, and then you just join them. There's a sledding hill over in Milford at the La Bellamy Winery, and they have a trail that goes out the back, and then there's a little shack so all the parents can sit there and drink hot chocolate, and all the children can sled down the hill, and it's a huge hill. Um, and so that's one of the first things that you'll do, because that's a free thing that you can do with your children, is go to La Bellamy, and you can go to the winery, and you can have you can get food, you can get lunch, you can have a glass of wine, and then you can go out and enjoy the snow as well. So it's not really an adjustment that you have to make, because as soon as you get here, you're going to meet 300 people. And 150 of them are going to be your best friends right off the bat, because you're just going to sync so well with them. You're going to get invited to tons of events and things like that, and you're going to enjoy the winter. It's a blast. Snow camping is phenomenally easy, and it's a lot of fun. You
Yeah.
can, the rivers don't freeze, so you can still fish and enjoy the outdoors. You just do it with snowshoes on, and it's not an adjustment at all. You learn from the others that are here. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks kind of down south. I know whenever if I'm ever down south and they get a dusting of snow, everyone freaks out and everything
Mhm.
shuts down. But of course, they don't have the infrastructure kind of built for snow. So,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly. We have the infrastructure to deal with it. And in Tennessee, where I grew up, we would get snows. We would get 8 and 10 inches of snow. And we have elevations there of 5,000 feet above sea level in the Smoky Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains there. And so there's lots of skiing and snow there too. And once you get up into the high elevations, then there's
yeah,
infrastructure for it and they can manage it. And it's the same way. But I can
yeah,
see how it's intimidating with someone who they come from a place where if you get 3 or 4 inches of snow, it shuts everything down. And that's because it's not practical to have $2 million worth of snow equipment for 3 inches of snow that's going to melt in 12 hours.
yeah, yeah,
But no, once you get up here and you see how well it's managed, it's not a challenge at all.
yeah, yeah. And I love living places where there's 4 actual seasons. Uh, anyway, mark the passage of time.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you moved here, and now you're very involved. You're leading things up with Alpine Gold. How did you get into that role? And then tell us a little bit more about Alpine Gold and the strong presence of what you guys are doing in New Hampshire.
Sure, sure. So during COVID, I tried to um, join a couple of outdoor clubs, but they were all full because everybody got locked indoors for 2 years. So everybody joined all of the outdoor clubs, and there were no openings. So I just took over. There was already an online group called the Porcupine Outdoor Recreation Club, and I just started posting in there and posting meetups and going and doing things. And then the person who managed that group just asked me. They asked me if I wanted it, and I said, sure. I'm the one doing all the stuff, and so that's cool with me. So I bought it from them. They owned it, so I bought it from them, and then I just started managing the outdoor club. Well, our big dream with that exercise, with that effort, is that we want to buy a piece of land. We want to have grounds. We want to have a clubhouse. We want to have lake access, and we want it to be an actual outdoor club, so that when people do move here, we'll have some culture and some activities and things like that are embedded here. And just like with any kind of culture, you want to have activities and recreational things for people to come play and have fun with. And
Mhm.
so that's what we want to develop. The problem is trying to develop that and navigate taxes and all these other fees that you have to deal with when you're trying to buy property. We're not making a lot of money at the outdoor club. It's not a big money maker. So we had to develop a way to collect dues, member dues, payments, fees, donations, and things like that that were more advantageous in the taxing system. And so one way that we found out to do that was with gold and silver. So in New Hampshire, New Hampshire is very friendly to gold and silver as trade and as currency. And so there's two bills. I can't remember the names of the bills, but in '95 there was a bill that took the taxes off of gold and silver so that it doesn't have capital gains tax. And then in 2008 there was another bill that took away the property tax, and it wasn't being taxed as property, but this bill made it so that gold and silver were not taxed as property. And that's something that takes place down in Massachusetts, that if you own gold and silver, that's taxed as property every single year. And New Hampshire just wanted to avoid that entirely. So New Hampshire is very friendly to gold and silver. And so we just started accepting gold and silver as payment for dues and fees. And one of the most convenient ways of accepting gold and silver is with Goldbacks. Goldbacks are the world's first um, uh, uh, tangible gold note. So what they are is they're a 24 karat gold foil that's 1/1000th of an ounce of gold. So it's worth about $5. And the idea is that it's a small enough denomination where you can carry it around and you can spend it. You can buy coffee with it and so forth. But at the same time, it's a precious metal. So it's gold and it traditionally goes up over time. So the idea is if you're buying gold and saving gold and spending gold, then you're not losing the value of your wealth to inflation. Well, for us in our situation, it was also an advantage for us in the tax system. So we started accepting gold as Goldbacks through the UPMA, the United Precious Metals Association. That's the tool behind the scenes that makes it all work. We started accepting it as dues. Well, then they kind of caught wind of what we were doing with it because I was calling them and we were, I was making sure all these systems were working. And they said, "Hey, how about you work for us as a contractor?" And so I signed up as an authorized partner and I started setting up merchants and I started selling Goldbacks for them. And I was really good at it. I did it for about 18 months, and it was a good side gig. It was enough I could make money at it and do it for a living. And then they offered me a job, and then in January of 2023, we opened this branch here in Manchester, New Hampshire, and so we essentially have a brick and mortar location where people can come in and deposit, withdraw, transfer, and process their gold and silver in traditional fashion, similar to the way traditional banks offer services. We offer the same services for gold and silver, and that's kind of how I got into it. I got into it out of greed, is what it was. I wanted to be able to buy. I wanted to be able to pay for dues and things like that for the club, and I wanted to be able to do it, at a tax advantage. And gold and silver presented that opportunity, and then I just kind of fell into it from there. And then now I'm the East Coast representative for Goldback and Alpine Gold, and the member service manager for the United Precious Metals Association. And they're all three the same. There's Goldback, which is the company. Alpine Gold is the distribution arm, and the UPMA is the tool in the background that makes it all work. And that's kind of how I fell into it. So that's how I got into that part. What was the original question since I went on that long rant?
I think you cover I think you covered a lot of it. How'd you get into this role where you are, and what is Alpine Gold doing right now with the Goldback? I mean, I'll tell you, since I've been coming to New Hampshire, I mean, I've seen Goldbacks, here and there over the years, but like in New Hampshire, people are like evangelical about these Goldbacks. Like, I went to like an event. I remember going to an event. It was not a political event. I was staying very kind of anonymous. I kind of just wanted to be just another person. And there's someone there who is like, again, completely non-political event, like offering it was someone's birthday, like giving them Goldbacks as a gift. I didn't even know this person. It's like people are wanting to spread this around. People are wanting to kind of hook people into sound money, and this seems like a really fun way to do it. I mean, practically, you have like an ounce of gold, or even like I've got like some coins back home that are like a tenth of an ounce of gold, but you're still talking about like a significant value there. That's not something you can kind of make small transactions with. But in New Hampshire, uh, you mentioned New Hampshire being very policy wise, very good on its treatment of gold and silver. I know in the state of Maine, we still have a sales tax on gold and silver. We have capital gains tax on gold and silver. Um, would transacting with something like Goldbacks is it much easier in New Hampshire because of the laws that are in place?
It's definitely easier in New Hampshire because of the leave me alone attitude that Granite Staters automatically have as part of this state culture. So that's just a lot easier right off the bat. But in addition to that, there's a lot of small mom and pop entrepreneur farmers markets here, and they're
Yeah,
accustomed to that type of barter and trade anyway. They trade eggs, they trade, milk, they trade meat, and that's just a a common occurrence to trade. You trade your vegetables, the
yeah,
future vegetables you're going to have in the summertime for the meat that you need in the wintertime. And these people, the granite staters that are generational granite staters are used to that. So trading with gold and silver and constitutional, there's a big constitutional market here. So the 90% silver that's pre 1965 silver, a lot of people are still trading in that. And so it's very easy here because people are accustomed to it. And then on top of that, the Goldbacks are just really nifty. They're really nifty and they're really neat.
yeah.
And so they're attractive. When you open up your wallet and you've got a bunch of gold in there, and you can just ask people, do you accept gold as payment? And people that trade and barter, they go, yeah, we'll trade with gold. What's that? And then you can, it's a gorgeous product. It's just a
Yeah.
gorgeous note, and it's easy to trade on. And in addition to that, the granite staters that are here have really warmed up to it. We have a map at goldback.com where you can find all the featured businesses, and there's 150 businesses that are already accepting it as payment. So, and they're not all free staters. I mean, they're all,
Yeah.
they're just regular granite staters that trade in gold and silver. We have auto shops, we have barber shops. We even have people calling the office because someone was trying to pay for gold or pay for their haircuts with Goldbacks, and they didn't know what a Goldback was. So they Googled it and called us, and they're like, is this thing real? And I'm like, yeah, it's real. And they're like, okay, put us on your map. And they just, people just accept it. So it's very easy here.
Awesome. I'll say there was a moment the other day where I wish I had a Goldback on me. I was in the Maine Senate. I was talking to one of my uh, uh, two of my Senate colleagues about a bill related to credit card debt or something, this or that. Anyway, the topic of the bill isn't important, but one of my Democratic colleagues kind of being a little snarky and a little like just poking at me because, of course, I'm like the sound money guy. I've been promoting getting rid of the sales tax on gold and silver and a lot of issues like that. And she just kind of says to me, Eric, is it hard for you to put your gold in the mail to pay off your credit card bill? And I just thought, well, yeah, she's picturing like gold coins and all that. I wish I had a gold back in that moment. I could have whipped out and says, not with a gold back. It fits right in an
And
envelope.
I
Send
could
it
have
wherever
done
I
you one
want.
even better. You can actually pay your bills with gold and silver. You can ACH it to your bank account. You can put it on a debit card, and you can spend it anywhere Visas accept. You can absolutely pay all of your bills and all your daily transactions with gold and silver, because that's what the UPMA does, is
Yeah.
they set that up. But no, that would have been great for you to have some Goldbacks there and just hand her one and say, yeah, like we just throw them in there and mail them. And sometimes we have to round up or down a little, but it's fine. We just round the change and make it like it's no big deal. That would have been good.
Sadly, I would have had some on me, except that I was so impressed with the Goldbacks when I came back to Maine. I purchased some from you all when I came to visit, and my father, who's very into kind of sound money, he was so impressed with it. He bought every single one off of me, and I figured, all right, I'll sell it to him because I know I'm going to get back to Manchester and buy some more at some point, but I haven't yet, so I got to
Well,
get
even
in there.
better than that, what you could do is give him your referral link from your UPMA account. And then when he buys gold, we give you a little bit of a thank you. And so we'll deposit gold in your account as a referral. And
Mm.
that's just how we say thank you. And there's no better gold than free gold. So you get him signed up under your account, and then you get to have the free gold every time he makes a purchase.
We'll see though. But if he lives in Maine and he's making that purchase, he's going to have to pay the Maine sales tax on it, right?
Well, that's the thing about the UPMA. The UPMA is a 501c6 member-to-member exchange,
Ah,
and we have no employees. That's why Alpine Gold is the member service manager for the UPMA. The UPMA has no employees, therefore there's no federal reporting, and so we provide our members with statements. So as a member, you'll receive a statement showing every single transaction you made, and you get to do whatever you want to do with your statements, and that's as far as it goes.
well, awesome. Well, so Adam, let me ask you.
I've got all the answers for you. You
All right,
can't tell me you can't spend gold and silver, because I've got all the answers on how you can.
awesome. Well, I'll have to learn more of that. Let me ask you though. So imagine I'm someone totally new to gold and silver, totally new to Goldbacks. I don't know any of this. And I'm someone who comes along to you and says, I guess this is kind of neat what you guys are doing. Seems kind of neat, kind of making gold available and almost like almost a dollar format, though, or at least a note format.
That's
But
right.
why is this important? I mean, why it's a fun little thing. Maybe it's like a little hobby thing some people have, but some people do lots of different hobbies. Like why is this important? Why should someone care about what Alpine Gold is doing?
Well, the whole sound money movement is very important. This isn't just an Alpine Gold thing. This isn't just a Goldback thing. Each state is pushing their own version of sound money. And so don't take our word for it. Go look at the legislation in Missouri. Go look in Utah, Wyoming, South Dakota, Texas, Tennessee. They've all passed legal tender acts. And in some cases, they've passed state depositories so that the state can accept gold and silver as payment. So don't just take my word for it. Gold and silver is important because that is the transitory base for all monetary systems, and it has been for 5,000 years. So JP Morgan is buying the heck out of gold and silver. Wells Fargo, TD Bank, all these world banks, the Bank of Venezuela, even though they're in bad shape, they're buying as much gold as they can. You got France, who's buying as much gold as they can. The BRICS nations are buying as much gold and silver as they can. So just get on the bandwagon. It's important because it's been the basis for all monetary transactions for the last 5,000 years. And gold and silver has never been worth anything. It's international. You can go anywhere in the world and people recognize gold and silver as a currency and as a
Yeah.
transaction, as a base for transaction. It's important because it doesn't erode with inflation. So when you own physical assets, the value of those assets always maintains their value. So if you want to maintain your wealth, you want physical assets. You want to own a home and you want to own gold and silver. These assets don't change in value. 60 years ago, you could buy a home with 156 gold coins. And today, you can buy that same home for that 156 gold coins. Similarly, 60 years ago, you could buy a house with 136,000 eggs. And now you can buy that same house with 136,000 eggs. The value of eggs didn't change. The value of gold didn't change.
Yeah.
The value of the house didn't change. But now the value of money has changed to the point that it's 10, 15, 20 times more expensive to buy a house, to buy eggs, and to buy gold. And that's because the monetary system is getting eroded by inflation. And that's what a fiat system does. It's inherent. It's been there since, I think, 1560, whenever we had, Gresham's observation, when Caesar hired him to go to the mint and figure out what the problem was with the inflation. It's fiat currency has always been inflated by the government. And the reason why it's important is because that is the preservation of your wealth. When you work and you get traded money, if you get paid in gold or if you buy gold, then your labor is going to be preserved over time.
One anecdote that has always stuck out in my mind, and I guess it's been effective because when presenting a gold and silver bill in one of my legislative policy committees last year, I used this anecdote, and a Democrat legislator remembered it a year later, just the other day, and brought it up to me. So, you go back to the Roman Republic, right? An ounce of gold could buy you a well-made toga. You fast forward, 2,000 plus years, and an ounce of gold can buy you a well-tailored suit, right? The value has remained. I mean, across civilizations, across time, across millennia, the value has remained remarkably consistent. Um, and I know, whenever I'm kind of talking about my efforts in Maine, which sadly haven't gotten very far this go around, but I'm sure others will carry the torch forward there. Um, but when I've talked about, getting rid of the sales tax, getting rid of taxes, treating gold and silver more like money in terms of our policy, I'll get cynical people. Usually, I'll see them on Twitter. They'll criticize, and usually they've got like all their pronouns listed and a Ukraine flag in their bio. So it kind of tells you kind of where they're coming from politically, who will say, this is just for like rich fat cats. Like who's buying what, who living paycheck to paycheck, what working class people are buying gold and silver. This is just must be for your wealthy donor friends. And I always think, it's funny, right? I always think about like, in Maine, we have sales tax and capital gains on gold and silver. It's double tax. You don't tax, when you put your money in the Wall Street casino, you don't get double tax like that anyway. But I know so many kind of, regular people, working class people who are living paycheck to paycheck, who they'll take what they have left at the end of their paycheck, then they'll buy a couple of rounds of silver in order to kind of save for the future. Like, and it's so pernicious to me that when we kind of erect these artificial barriers that government does, stopping people from being able to save in gold and silver, we are perpetuating this cycle where people are stuck living paycheck to paycheck. Because why are you going to save? You're going to put what you have left of your paycheck in a savings account at the bank and just watch the value decline day after day after day as the Federal Reserve just prints trillions of dollars out of thin air? It's new states like New Hampshire that are already so much further along in just kind of respecting sound money. It's amazing to see, and it's so sad to see how many people are still stuck behind these artificial government walls that block access.
That's right. And to add what you were saying, how the fat cats that we're selling to, we've got 56,000 members, and half of our members are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're depositing their paychecks into the UPMA, and they're getting debit cards, and they're ACHing to their bank accounts, and they're paying all of their bills. And at the end of the day, whenever they have money left from their bills, they're just keeping it in gold. They're putting it into our leasing program. They're gaining 2% interest. They're preserving their wealth. So the fat cats that they're talking about are half of our membership that are living paycheck to paycheck, but now they're doing it with gold. And now when they look at their gold account, they see that gold appreciating in value, and with every single week that goes by, they see it go up. And I think it's up. What gold is at its highest right now? It's $2,450 today, I think I saw. And so their paychecks, these folks, these fat cats that are living paycheck to paycheck on our system, they're seeing their wealth grow right now because they're putting their paychecks into the UPMA, and they're able to pay all their bills with gold and silver. And at the end of the day, they're able to see the value of their labor go up by the next paycheck, rather than going down every time they see gas go up, every time they see eggs go up, every time they see the housing price go up. Well, their wealth is now going up at the same rate, and they're able to save. And we've got gold IRAs too. People that are saving for a house are investing in gold IRAs. That way, whenever they transfer that gold IRA out, once it matures, they're able to buy a house. And so that I was talking to someone just yesterday, or I guess it was Friday now because today's Monday. But on Friday, someone called and they were liquidating their IRA with no capital gains tax, by the way, because in an IRA, that's what it's designed for, is to get, to bypass that federal capital gains. They were liquidating their account so that they could buy a house, and their investment, their savings had increased 22% in 2 years in the time that they were saving up for their house. And now they had enough that they essentially got a 22% discount on buying their house because gold went up 22% in the last 2 years. And so all those fat cats, you call them back. Call those people and say, yeah, the fat cats that are buying us gold and silver and living paycheck to paycheck, well, now they're buying homes. And
Yeah.
so those are the people we're dealing with.
Yeah. I think sometimes the disconnected logic is like imagining that people like there are some who imagine that people are going to be living paycheck to paycheck and they're always going to be living paycheck to paycheck and there's nothing we can do about it except for passive expanding all these government programs to,
And
give
they're
them
right. As long as the
right,
Republicans and Democrats are in charge, they are going to live paycheck to
right,
paycheck. That's
right,
exactly what will happen.
right. But the path out, right? The path out is allowing people to save with instruments that actually save value rather
That's
than
right.
gradually decline in
The
value.
free market is what's going to set people
Yeah,
free. That's what's going to happen. Being able to buy for the products you want, and being able to pay in the currency that you want, whether it's
right.
Bitcoin or gold or barter and trade, the free market is what's going to set people free. And the more we teach people how to trade and barter, how to spend in crypto, how to spend in gold and silver, the more free they're going to become, and the more liberty and freedom they're going to experience.
It's interesting when I look back, right? Back to the days when Ron Paul was in Congress and railing against the Federal Reserve and spreading the message of sound money and honest money in his presidential campaigns. There was the slogan, the name of his book, "End the Fed," right? And the idea of ending the Federal Reserve, I think back then most people conceived of it as a top-down way to end the Fed, right? Audit the Fed and then pass legislation. We're going to abolish the Fed, right? And this was kind of the conception. And obviously, Congress and the powers that be in Washington, D.C. have no interest in any accountability there because that ability to print money out of thin air and siphon value away from the savings of the American people without them even knowing what's happening, that's very valuable to them. They're never going to cut off their own money printing machine. But
Robbing people blind. You're right. Yep, exactly right.
yeah, and then they blame, small mom and pop stores, in your neighborhood or as
Right.
price gougers. They're they're raising prices because they're greedy. Just don't look as we literally just counterfeit the currency at mass.
Mm.
But what's been so fascinating to watch in the decade and a half since is, um, in some respects, I think we've given up on the idea that there's going to be a top-down answer to this, that we're going to be able to end the Fed or even audit the Fed from the federal level. So instead, it's like there have been all these different movements to just kind of personally nullify the Fed, just opt out of the Fed, build parallel systems, create systems of cryptocurrency, create systems where people can save in gold and silver and earn interest, create systems where you can have a gold note that's worth $5 and you can actually pay for you could pay for a cup of coffee with it.
And that gold note that's worth $5, it was worth $2.89 when I started working with them, and now it's worth $5. So it's doubled in value just from people using it. So, and that's
Yeah.
the real thing about the Goldback that even Goldback didn't much anticipate, was that the free market is the one that creates the value of that Goldback. So if
Yeah.
you're a lot of people listening to this that know about gold and silver and they understand spot price and premium, they're going to say, "Oh, I'm not going to use Goldback because it's got an 80% premium on it." Well, we didn't put an 80% premium on it. We manufacture it, and we have a manufacturing price. It costs money to make these things, and it costs more money to make 1/1000th of an ounce of gold than it does, a 1 ounce round of gold. And so you can imagine that premium is going to be bigger on something that has a smaller amount. So we have a manufacturing price, but the value of this Goldback is determined by the free market. People are trading these out of convenience. People are holding them out of affordability, and they're spending them out of convenience. And so that $2.89 that it started at 3 or 4 years ago, back during the pandemic, whenever that was happening, the value of that going up is because of its adoption and its usability in the marketplace, is what that is. And so we don't set the value at $5. The free market sets it at $5. And that's why we have a daily exchange rate, which is more or less, like a national average of what they trade at. and that's how we derive some of that. But I was making a point about your free market, and then I got a little derailed. But that's the value of gold, is because the gold and the barter and the mom and pops that are trading inside the market freely, free people trading goods and services freely, are what's going to nullify the Fed. We don't care about the Fed. We don't care what they do. We're just beating the pants off of them every single day. That's what we do. And so we just beat them out of the market, and that's how we're going to win.
Well, it's awesome, and it's happening in New Hampshire. Now, let me ask you, and I should have asked you before we started recording. You don't happen to have like a Goldback near at hand, for at least for the folks who are watching, to be able to, if they've never seen one, they can see one. For those who are listening, like an audio version of this podcast, maybe we can describe it to you,
Sure.
or you can like go and
Sure.
check out the video version if you want to see.
I'll try to hold it up here and give the camera time to like focus. So this will work as well as it works. But this right here is the Goldback. This is the New Hampshire 25. And inside the artwork of each Goldback, I'm going to hold can you hear the mic okay? I'm kind of
Yeah, we're hearing you better now.
Oh, very good, very good. So this is the New Hampshire Goldback. And what the artists do, Goldback sends them out to the state for months at a time to experience the state and learn the culture of the state. So what you get with a Goldback is this wonderful artwork. You get the New Hampshire Goldback. This is the 25. In the background, you can see the maple tree. And if you can, it's hard to see, but you can see there's like a building over on the side with a flag on top. Yeah. That's the famous overlook on the Kangamangas Highway. And they put that in the background. You can see the maple bucket right there from tapping the maple trees. And then this is Fortitude. This is the goddess of fortitude, which is to make things stronger. And then you have the live free or die motto with the state right there. And then right below it, if you see right below, you'll see two little porcupines. And those porcupines are a tribute to the people that got the New Hampshire Goldback launched. And you can see that it's two porcupines that came to New Hampshire and started a little family. And so that right there is my favorite Goldback, because it features New Hampshire, and it features all of the history of New Hampshire and the culture that we have here. And then on top of that, it's one of my favorites. I like fortitude. I like making things stronger, keeping the history, keeping the culture, and just making things better. And that's what New Hampshire is all about. They're not about reinventing the wheel. They're keeping everything that they have, all the liberty and freedom that they've been given, and they're maintaining that. And that's what I like. I want to make the good things stronger.
And so that note was 1/40th of an ounce of gold?
That's right. That's right. It was basically 25 1,000ths, but if you do the math, it's 1/40th.
Okay. Now, I'll say, I know when I introduced my father to Goldbacks, he went and did some research and found some interviews with, I don't know if it was the founder or someone. And I know, anyway, this guy was doing an interview where they tested the Goldback by they burned it just to see what the gold content was, to see if it actually was as advertised. And my dad was very proud to report to me, actually, there was slightly more gold in there than was advertised. And I guess the guy had said, I'm sure you probably know the person's name, but said, yeah, we try to go a little bit over so that if there's any kind of no one can ever accuse us of shorting people.
That's right. With any kind of manufacturing, there's going to be variances. Even the slightest of variances can kind of get you in trouble. So they do try to put between 2% and 7% more gold in each Goldback, depending on the denomination, right? Well, so the bigger ones will have a little bit more. But the gentleman you're talking about, that's Jeremy Corden, is our CEO. And the gentleman that contacted him was Mike Adams from Brighteon. And he's a big Liberty guy. Big into health freedom is what he's into. And he's got a tremendous program. And I think they contacted us. I think I can be wrong about this, so I'll take corrections later. But my understanding is Brighteon contacted us and said, hey, we really like these, but we don't promote anything on our program that isn't legitimate. And so we have a laboratory for food, but we can test these things and we can check and make sure they're legitimate. But we wanted to give you guys a heads up, before we did that, we didn't want to, accidentally destroy your entire business. So Jeremy was very confident. He's like, if you want to test them, you go ahead and test them. Well, then they came out with like a 7-part series. It was a series of videos where they're progressively testing these things with more and more detail and more precision. And once those videos started coming out, like there were a couple of internal messages sent saying, okay, they're throwing us up against the ropes. Like they're really testing this thing. I don't know what they imagined the test was going to look like, but it was pretty impressive. Like they really went through. Pardon me, you can go to verifiedgoldbacks.com. I think it's either verified goldback or verified goldbacks. I can't remember, but you can go see the whole process. I think it's like a 7-part series, and they put it through the gauntlet, man. And we got tons and tons of calls based on that. And so it wound up really helping us out a lot, and Mike Adams and the whole Brighteon network, they do a great job with all of their production and everything out there. But man, they weren't holding back when they said, we're going to test them. They said, if there's anything wrong, we're going to find it. And thankfully they didn't find anything wrong. They were certainly not holding back, and they did a good job of it. But I think that's probably what he was talking about. Those are the people that tested it the hardest.
That sounds right. Well, and I guess it's comforting for folks to know if they're looking at purchasing Goldbacks and using Goldbacks that it has been tested in such a fashion, and you know what you're getting.
Yep. And these all have like a serial number on the side of them. Let me see if I can point at it. But on the side here, it's got a serial number, and that's all recorded and cataloged at Valorum, which is the manufacturer. And then there's other things on here that are we can tell by looking at these. There's certain markings on certain ones that we can tell for counterfeits. But the most obvious way to look for something for validity is the back side of this. So this is all manufactured through a process called decomposition magnetron sputtering. And essentially what they do is they vaporize the gold, and then they attract it to the target, which is the polymer on the front. You can hear it. It has a little bit of a polymer to it, and that's the front side of it. And then on the back side of it, what they do is they create this relief by stacking the gold essentially one molecule at a time. So that's actually a 3-dimensional relief, and you can feel the texture of it. And one thing that they haven't been able to get anyone to duplicate is that relief on the back side. Some people say, oh, this could be gold leaf, and you can print these out, and you can put a polymer on the front of it. But one thing nobody can do, you can't produce that 3-dimensional image on the back of it, that relief that's on there. You have to do that with magnetron sputtering. And in that case, you're not counterfeiting anything. You're just making a 24-karat gold note. And yeah,
and then stealing someone else's branding for some reason.
Yeah, so go for it. It's just helping the sound money movement anyway. So
yeah. Well, that awesome. Anything? So we've covered a lot. I really appreciate that you and for folks who are listening to the audio version, it really is worth kind of finding one of the video versions if you've never seen a Goldback before. I really appreciate you showing us that. Is there like a website where people can go to learn more about Goldbacks? Is alpinegold.com?
alpinegold.com is our commerce site. You can go there and see all the Goldbacks. They're all available. You can also go to goldback.com. You can read about all the history. All the artwork is there in the art gallery. You can read about how they developed all the artwork. The UPMA is the service that we use. You can go to upma.org, and you can read all about that on the resources tab. And you can also just come by our store. So our office, our management office actually, is in Manchester, New Hampshire at 74 Putnam Street. And you can make an appointment and come on over and talk to us about it. Our number is 603-836-8814. We do everything by appointment because we do get a ton of calls. We get a tremendous amount of calls every day. So we have to make appointments in order to give people the proper service. But you can come by and we can talk about Goldbacks, and I can tell you all about the services and gold and silver, and we can just eat cookies and drink tea because we have tea parties every day at 2:00. And so you can come by and enjoy that. And that's more how you can find out more about it. Another opportunity is the PorcFest in 2024 that's coming up in June. We're going to be sponsoring the Sound Money Market that's down in the field. So we're going to have vendors that are specifically there accepting sound money for goods and services. We're going to have a food vendor. We're going to have drinks, sodas and things like that there. We're also going to be doing a live podcast, a live broadcast from various shows. We've got several producers coming from, I think it's the Discovery Channel that are coming. We're partnering with Citizens for Sound Money, and they're making a documentary that's going to be on
Oh yeah,
Discovery and
yeah, they're doing that with A&E. I
A&E.
just
Yeah.
had
I think
Daniel
they got,
Diaz
yep.
on.
Yeah,
From
Daniel Diaz was on, and they're going to have the producer. His name's William, and I apologize for not knowing his name and his company. It's just eluding me at this point. But they're going to be there putting on a podcast. We're going to be there with the Missouri Institute. The Patrick Holland is going to be there. We're going to be broadcasting a lot of different things. We're going to do a YouTube-a-thon. And so that's going to be another opportunity to come in and meet people from Goldback, from Alpine Gold. We're going to have a sound money market where you can make purchases. We're going to have a mobile branch of Alpine Gold there so that you can buy, sell, trade, deposit. You can open up an account and you can deposit onto your UPMA and you can transfer it right into gold, and you can do transfers with other members, member to member transfers over the internet with that. All the vendors at PorcFest, all the vendors over on the Silk Road and what's the other little vendor area that they call it? Uh, it's escaping me, but there's a
I,
whole vendor area that they
yeah,
have,
yeah,
and
I
everyone trades in gold and silver. So it's we're going to
yeah.
be there in full force representing it. We're going to have a little mobile Alpine Gold branch there, and that's going to be really fantastic. So there's lots of ways to learn more about it. Go online, come by the store, but more importantly, buy PorcFest tickets and show up to the
Absolutely.
Sound Money Market and meet 2,000 people that are doing it and living the lifestyle and living with liberty and freedom.
Well, I know that I definitely I want to I need to replenish my stock of Goldbacks. So Porkfest is going to be a great way to do great place to do that. Absolutely. So I have to know if I wanted to buy Goldbacks from you. I assume I could pay with gold coins, silver coins. I could pay with Bitcoin. But do you accept? I know this is not a lot of people want to accept this these days, but do you accept like Federal Reserve notes? I know they're like depreciating in value and they're just kind of paper that's backed by nothing. But like, if I wanted to exchange Federal Reserve notes for Goldbacks, could I do that?
We are the golden goose is what we are. We're the golden goose for Federal Reserve notes. What we do is when you come in with your paper dollars, we don't even call them dollars or fiat. We just call it paper. If you come in with your paper, we take your paper and we buy more gold shot with it, and then we make more gold back. So it's not like we keep it, but we are the liaison between paper dollars and gold. So you bring me your paper dollars, and this golden goose will turn them into gold, and then you will be able to preserve your wealth with precious metals.
What a good deal. All right. Well, we're running out of time. Adam, I want to any final word you want to share with folks?
No, I think that was it. I was going to finish with the PorcFest thing, but we are going to be having tea parties here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and at 2 o'clock. And you can just swing by anytime during the week. And there's going to be people here that are enthusiastic about gold and silver, and just come join us. But no, I was going to finish up with PorcFest, and I think we got that. So thank you so much, Eric, for
Awesome.
having me on. Hurry up and get here in New Hampshire. You started the show by saying you're done. So now that ball's in your court, pal, you better get over here.
I'm looking for housing. I'm starting that process, that migration, and I'm looking forward to being more permanently in New Hampshire before the end of the year.
Well,
So,
we're looking forward to it. So anything you need, you just let me know, and I'll do everything I can to help.
all right. Well, let's do sushi again sometime, Adam. It was a pleasure the first time.
You don't have to twist my arm.
All right. Thank you, Adam.
Take care.
All right, everyone. That's the show, episode 13. Thank you so much for joining me and Adam Van and learning about all the great work being done by Alpine Gold and in promoting sound money in our times, in our day and age, and our efforts to personally, from the bottom up, nullify the Federal Reserve. Just opt out of that system as much as you can. You don't have to be trapped in this system of depreciating currency when There are so many alternatives being made available for hard, sound money. Very exciting time to be alive. All right, everyone. Reminder, I know we keep reminding you about it, but the early bird tickets are almost gone. So grab your early bird ticket at a discounted price at porkfest.com. Once those tickets are gone, you're going to you can still get a ticket, but it's going to be at the regular price. The early birds are going fast. So the early bird gets the discount ticket. That's how it goes. No worms involved, just discount tickets. So get that at porkfest.com. All right, everyone. I want to say thank you once again to our technical producer, Justin O'Donnell, for being the man behind the curtain, running things behind the scenes here. Thank you, Justin, for all your work. And that's it for tonight. Furthermore, everyone, my opinion is the Federal Reserve should be destroyed. Thank you and good night.